If you're someone that's been meditating for a little while and you're not really experiencing anything, you're not really feeling anything in meditation, you can't really perceive that there's any kind of change going on, then this video is for you. I'm going to be explaining why you don't feel anything in meditation, why nothing appears to be happening. And I'm going to start in a very practical way, breaking down what you can do to start to change that. Because although meditation is something that happens often beyond our perception, we might not be aware of it, we should start to see signs that things are happening and things are changing. And if it's been a little while and you're not, then there's a good chance that some of the things that I'm going to go through today need to be fixed. Now, you might recall me talking about this on a different video about a year or two ago. Now that video was very different. In that video, I broke down the different phases of meditation and how that can cause us sometimes to be in a phase where we're not experiencing anything, or be in a phase where we're experiencing loads. Today's very different. So to start with, to help create an idea in your mind of how this works, I want you to think about a guitar. The guitar has a body, generally made of wood, some form of wood, and then it has 6 strings. For the sake of my artwork, I'll leave it at 4. And of course, it has a player. For the sake of this, because the player is going to represent our spirit, I'm just going to actually call it spirit. And then the byproduct of the combination, or the workings of these 3, create music. And so what I'm really trying to elaborate on here is that we as physical beings also have different elements and different components that we need to have in alignment to be able to create, if that's the way of putting it, meditation. We've got our own physical body, and the body, obviously, in this metaphor, represents the body of the guitar. We have strings, and they represent our mind. And of course, we have the spirit. When we start to bring all of these areas into alignment, which I'm going to explain to you in a very practical way, we can experience music or meditation. Meditation will come about as a byproduct of the alignment of mind, body, and spirit. Let's break this down for you. So the body slash instrument, very, very important. And what I notice many spiritual people do is completely overlook the body and get immediately to the more spiritual or esoteric types of teachings and try and work just from that level. But they've not built the foundation. It's like trying to play the guitar. If it's all broken, it won't work. It just won't work. And meditation is very much the same, even to the very basics of like sleep. If you do not have enough sleep, if you wake up in the morning and you've not slept enough, you will really, really struggle to meditate. There's a good chance that you won't be able to. And everyone needs to examine themselves and look into the peculiarities of their own body and their own needs. So sleep. The next thing, and this is a more modern problem, obviously, is screen time. Now, I've come to the realization of something recently, that I need to be wearing blue light glasses. I don't know about you, but for me, I work from home and I work on my screen a lot. And what I was finding was that when I had days where I was editing a lot, or I was just at the screen a lot for whatever reason, I would go to bed at night and I'd feel quite alert. I'd feel like I was almost charged up with energy. And I would actually fall asleep fine. That was never a problem for me. I could fall asleep okay. But I would wake up completely awake at like 4 a.m., 5 a.m. for only perhaps 5 or 10 minutes. But it really then from that point on, it was a bit broken, my sleep. And what I did was I looked into this all because I started to suspect that it was down to screen time. And it turns out that our screens give off blue light, which affects the melatonin production, and it starts to impact our sleep, or has the potential to. So I invested in some blue light glasses. I've actually got 2. This is kind of like a daytime set that basically reduce the amount of blue light that we take on board. And I've got these bad boys, which are much stronger, basically. These block much more of the blue light. So I tend to wear those if I'm doing like heavy time on the screen, on the laptop. But I would look at investing in these types of things because I've noticed a massive difference. And I've got a blue light filter on my laptop screen. I wear those blue light glasses during the day if I'm on my phone or if I'm on my screen. And the other thing that I've done is I've changed the filters within my phone and within my laptop so that they're on nighttime mode. And I've actually got grayscale on as well, so there's no color being thrown off of the screen. If you're getting too much screen time, or if you're looking at the screen a lot and you haven't got these kinds of things in place, that's got a high potential to affect your sleep. Your sleep has then got a high potential of affecting the meditation, and all of these are contributing factors. So when it comes to screen time, I would recommend either reducing it if you can, or if you're like me and you work from your laptop and you need to, then blue light glasses. I'll put some links below the video so you can have a look at the ones I've used, and then a filter for your screen. Made a huge difference to me, and just dimming down the light as well on the screen. After that, we have movement. You don't need to be pushing yourself to the limit. That's not what I'm suggesting, but to actually just elevate your heart rate, get a bit of a sweat on, is a really good thing to do. It actually helps to dissipate a lot of energy as well. So if you're someone that is meditating a lot and you've had a buildup of kundalini, for example, movement, especially if you're taking your socks off and running around on the grass or the bare on the earth, that's essential to start to allow this energy to dissipate. So movement, but in particular, movement that elevates the heart rate. And I tend to, I'll just explain the way that I do this, is that I wanted to have the most efficient way of being able to exercise. And some of you may know, but I used to compete in triathlons. So I'm used to working extremely hard, and I don't live like that now. I live a much more balanced life. But I set up a bike in my garage on an indoor trainer. It's just my old bike on a really cheap indoor trainer. I've got a little light in there, and I'd literally just go on the bike for like 30 or 40 minutes a day, work pretty hard, get my heart rate up. And that's been really nice to have that easy way of just exercising. But alongside that, another thing that I do is, again, because I work at home all day, if I'm not careful, I can just be sitting at the laptop. So what I've started doing is every hour getting up, as daft as it sounds, doing like 50 star jumps and some press ups. All of my movement now I do at home. I do bodyweight exercises, I do cardio, I do walking, running, swimming. Obviously, swimming's not at home, but all of the other things I do at home. So that it doesn't have to be high cost. You don't need fancy equipment. We're programmed and conditioned to believe that we need all this kit. When I was younger, my teacher said, I want you to work on doing press ups every day. I want you to work out how many press ups you can do, and then every single week do 5 more. And this was probably when I was about 12 or 13, and I started off, I could do 10 in one go. And over the course of weeks, I built up to being able to do about 80 or 90 press ups in one go at the age of like 12 or 13, purely because I was just working with my body and just gently built it up. Such an easy way of doing it. So don't think that this needs to be complicated. The next thing is water. Could be considered a controversial point, but this has also been something that my teacher shed light on, because I wasn't aware of this, or I was aware of it, but I didn't actually consider it to be a real problem. Is that our tap water is full of microplastics. There's also fluoride is added to the water in the UK. So what I did is I got a water filter that sat under the sink, and it filters the water and it filters the fluoride as well. There's 2 units. If I can as well, I'll put a link to this in the description. There's a fluoride filter and there's a general filter. And the water now is beautiful that comes out of the tap. You can really notice the difference. It's so much softer, so much, you can just tell it's cleaner. But it turns out that, and lots of people have spoken about this, I honestly thought it was a load of rubbish until my teacher confirmed it with me that no, it is true, that the fluoride actually basically clogs up the pineal gland. It gets in the way of the pineal gland, calcifies over it, and prevents it from opening. So it quite literally impacts your progression spiritually. Obviously, toothpaste with fluoride in is another thing. So looking at any parts of what you're drinking, what you're consuming, that's either got like processed food, that's either processed food rather, or contains fluoride, try to eliminate them. So water is a big one. And then the next thing is food. 7 or 8 years ago now, I went veggie, and I never looked back. And everyone said, "How are you going to get enough protein? How are you going to do this? How are you going to do that?" I feel like amazing having eaten a veggie diet for all this time. I felt immediately good. And actually, interestingly, when I started eating a veggie diet, I was in the peak of my triathlon career, and my progress shot through the roof. It wasn't purely down to the veggie diet, I know that, but the veggie diet certainly didn't impact it in any way. Now, in a lot of the scriptures, if you look at the readings, the teachings from a lot of saints and sages, pretty much all of them suggest a veggie diet. If energy is coming from the sun and it's being absorbed by the plants and the vegetables, and you're eating the plants and vegetables directly, you're getting that energy very direct. You're also not having to kill anything in the process of you eating, and you can be perfectly healthy. Now, I don't push people to eat a veggie diet. I don't even really I never actually mention it, even in my school, but people do ask me from time to time, and I generally say to people, try it, see if it works for you, give it a month. If you need to speak to a medical professional, that's always recommended, but try it and see how your body responds. But make sure that you do it in a way where you're actually eating proper foods. You're not just eating rubbish and then saying, oh no, it doesn't work for me, but you've been eating all processed veggie food. Like, try to do it in a way that's actually natural and healthy, and see how your body responds. If it doesn't, fine, no problem. Eat what your body does need, because it's all about getting your body in alignment, not taking on my ideas of what your body needs. But I just think that a lot of people probably would suit a veggie diet, but they've not tried it yet. So give it a go and see how that impacts you. We also consume through what we watch and what we hear. And I know that so many people are, and understandably, quite sad, quite down, quite low, traumatized even by what they're seeing around them, what they're seeing on the news, and what they're reading. And I would suggest that, yeah, we need to be informed. We need to know what's going on in the world, but try to really limit your news time. Try to also look at it through, lenses like this of discernment, where you're not just taking on everything that you're listening to as being fact. I know that sounds probably pretty obvious, but just reduce your view time, reduce your time of watching the news, listening to all of this rubbish, because it's all fear based, it's all bringing us down, it's all low vibration stuff. So this things like this are related to the body. All of this is the body of the guitar. So let's move on to the mind. So I've slimmed this down to 6 just so it's more digestible, and it's also aligned to the little guitar metaphor. We have inequalities that we need to develop in the mind. So these are inequalities that make meditation possible. And these are, I've slimmed them down as I say, but patience, sincerity, acceptance, commitment, detachment, and tolerance. So those are virtues, but I've tried to narrow them down to ways that we can understand. So time, motive, perception, will, desire, and understanding. Oftentimes, what will happen is you will go into meditation and you'll be shown which one of these aspects of yourself, or you will notice which one of these aspects of yourself are not tuned in enough. So, like the strings, if the strings of the guitar haven't been tuned, they're not tight enough, or they're too loose, then you can't play that particular string. And each of these strings needs to be worked on, each of them needs to be refined. So our job is, when we're moving about our day, and especially in meditation, we need to start to cultivate these ways of being as much as we can and develop them. So if we're starting to feel impatient in meditation, it's not the problem of the practice, it's your inner quality that you're being shown is not quite there, it's not quite up to scratch. If you're finding that perhaps you've not got acceptance, this is a perception thing. You're thinking that things need to be a certain way, or you're not allowing things to unfold as they need to unfold. If you've not got detachment, it might be that you're finding actually that you're being shown in meditation that you're overly attached to a person, or to an experience, or a certain aspect of life. So we're always being shown which inequality we need to work on. And what I would suggest doing is that you could, even when you go into meditation, if you start to feel, let's say, impatient, then write it down and know that that's an area that you need to work on, and actually see, how can I work on impatience in the day. Now, the spirit is really about the actual practice of meditation itself. So what I'd look at here is actually the technique that you're using. And if you're struggling with your technique, if you're not really sure what you should be doing, or if you've been working on something for a little while and that's not quite working, then you're welcome to check out my online school. I teach lots of different methods of meditation, and I can help you really to align that technique more and more. But I'd look at the technique And I would give that technique, generally speaking, unless there was some other complication with it, I'd give it 3 months of working on one technique to really see how it feels. And also, you've got time factor. This, of course, is related to increasing the time that you meditate. So if you just started out and you're doing just like 10 minutes, then perhaps you could up it by 2 or 3 minutes every week, start to increase that. Because if you were to say practice working on observing a candle flame, that was your meditation technique, you could do it for 3 months. You might start off at 10 minutes and you could increase that by like plus 2 minutes every week. Well, over the course of 3 months, you're going to be at quite a considerable length of time with your meditation, but it won't have felt like a massive increase. You will have done it nice and gently. And all throughout that process of practicing, you're going to be getting shown whether you're needing to work on patience, whether you're needing to work on, some other virtue. It might be determination, it might be commitment, it might be acceptance. It could be anything beyond the ones that I've mentioned as well. In the school, I teach 9 different virtues, and I encourage people to look at those virtues and embed those virtues into their life. But as you can see, each of these 3 components, the mind, the body, and the spirit, need to be in harmony for meditation to actually come about. So, mind, body, and spirit, they align, they create a fertile soil for meditation to happen. And then, with the assistance of divine grace, I mean, everything's divine grace, but I don't want to go down that avenue of explaining all of that. But with the assistance of divine grace, then the process of meditation will unfold naturally when it's ready and when it's appropriate for you. But this is probably why you're not feeling much in meditation. And I would encourage you to work on these things. And I would encourage you, if you need more help with meditation, check out my online school. There's a link in the description. But failing that, I'll see you on the next one. Thanks a lot.